It's enough.
We have more Lamar Jackson disrespect. There is one individual who will not sit back and take this any longer. He brings up one stat that nobody has been talking about when it comes to judging the rankings of the quarterbacks in the NFL. The Baltimore Ravens general manager may be looking into the future and bypassing this season from some of the comments that he made earlier this week. And the time has finally come. Waiting is over. No more preseason games. This is it. But first, Ravens fly, let's fly. So on the show, first things first, they were talking about an anonymous DC saying that Lamar Jackson just wasn't it. He couldn't pass. He just was not that guy. But there was one in particular that said, you know what? Enough is enough. I am not taking this anymore. The Lamar Jackson disrespect has to stop. He is not a passer. He can't throw the ball. It's pure nonsense. So going back to last season's playoffs with the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs, if we look at some of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, let's look at the stats that these quarterbacks had against the Chiefs. Now, for some of you that do not know, the Kansas City Chiefs had the number 2 defense statistically behind the Baltimore Ravens in a lot of categories, which means they were truly good. And the Chiefs faced off against 4 of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, especially some's number 2, number 3 choice in Josh Allen. But how did these quarterbacks fare? First, let's listen to the clip and see what they had to say.
I'm done with Lamar Jackson being disrespected. He can't pass because look at the Chiefs game. He couldn't pass in that game. So here are the statistics. I got it fired up. Here's Lamar's 2023 season, which, by the way, he won the MVP. So if you win the MVP, you belong right below Patrick Mahomes. The regular season MVP, guy who's won it twice, belongs right below. Doesn't below Joe Burrow. He doesn't belong below Josh Allen. He was great against, first of all, he had a bye, so he automatically, that should count as a win. He rolled the Texans, and then he had to play the Chiefs, who are a dynasty in the making. He had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. So how did everybody do against the Chiefs? For the record, the Chiefs gave up an average of 175 passing yards throughout the year. Lamar did have 272 yards. He would have had another touchdown if Zay Flowers didn't reach the ball out and L'Jarius Sneed saved the Chiefs' season. So he lost to the dynasty in the making. He didn't even make the Super Bowl. They did play the 49ers a few weeks before, and he destroyed them. Going on the board, an anonymous defensive coordinator who probably lost to Lamar Jackson with the most basic criticism that we've been hearing for years.
All right, now looking at the statistics, we're going to go in order of the quarterbacks that the Chiefs played. In the first round, the wild card round, the Chiefs took on the Miami Dolphins. And Tua Tagovailoa, with all of his weapons and genius offensive coach Mike McDaniels, Tua managed to throw for 199 yards with a touchdown and an interception, even with him having all-world Tyreek Hill having a career year. Against this Kansas City defense and a little bit of the weather, he did not look well. The Chiefs effectively shut him down. Tua is not in the top half of the best quarterbacks in the league as far as the top 10 goes. He may be on the outskirts. He may be a fringe top 10 player, but he's not considered that. So let's move on to the next round. Let's go to the divisional round versus the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, everybody's favorite for number 2, number 3 quarterback in the league, especially with that playoff game that he had versus the Chiefs where he threw 4 touchdowns, but they eventually lost. This catapulted him into a stratosphere unlike no other. But when he had an opportunity to play a weakened Chiefs team, what did Josh Allen in all of his stature do? Well, I'm going to tell you what he did. He did the worst out of all 4 quarterbacks. Josh Allen in all his specialness. Now, I won't say that he's overrated, even though he was voted the most overrated player in the NFL. I won't go that far. But as far as everybody pumping him up saying that he's better than Lamar Jackson, he did the worst. At home, people tend to forget they played in Buffalo, so he was on his home turf, and he only threw for 186 yards, 1 touchdown, and surprisingly, he did not have an interception. But out of the group of these 4 quarterbacks, your favorite only threw for 186 yards. When the Chiefs were at their weakest, that was it. But now we're going to move into the AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. And for those of you that say, well, Lamar can't pass, he's not a pure passer, he can't do this, he can only run around. Lamar Jackson by far had the most yards versus the Kansas City Chiefs and their number 2 ranked defense. Lamar Jackson threw for 272 yards. And this is a statistic that a lot of guys aren't bringing up. Against a team that dominated the playoffs, Lamar Jackson almost had 300 yards. He had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Could have been 2 if it were not for the fumble like they said, but Lamar Jackson did his thing. With a receiving core that is not up to par with Buffalo or Miami, Lamar Jackson went out there and passed. Didn't run, he threw for it. So for the people that said, oh, well, they put it on Lamar's shoulders and he couldn't get it done, statistically, outside of a couple plays here and there, Lamar Jackson passed all over this dominating defense. Lamar Jackson threw against a Super Bowl championship defense. So for all the criticism that he gets, for all the people that says, oh, you can't trust Lamar Jackson in the past, you can't do this, they put it on his shoulders and look what happened. There were a lot of factors in that game why the Ravens did not win. But for Lamar to go out there in his first season under Todd Monken's system, to go out there with a debilitated, crippling wide receiving core outside of Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson did his thing. So I think now we can put to bed, we can put it to rest once and for all that Lamar Jackson is not a passer. He can't throw from the pocket. He can't lead this team. Yes, he can. You're not going to win every game. You're not going to be successful in everything that you do. But looking at what he did versus these other 2 quarterbacks in the AFC that are sometimes ranked as the top, Lamar Jackson came out the best statistically. Then we move on to the Super Bowl with the NFL's second son in Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy had 255 yards, 1 touchdown, and 0 interceptions. But if you actually look at it, look at what the San Francisco 49ers bring versus what the Baltimore Ravens bring. San Francisco has Trent Williams at left tackle. We had Ronnie Stanley that gave up pressure that led to a Lamar Jackson strip sack. Offensive line, the comparison, San Francisco's got it. Then you look at the weapons that Brock Purdy has. He's got Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuels, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and then they even bring in Juwan Jennings. Like, they are stacked and loaded across the board offensively. But Lamar Jackson still outperformed them all. He threw for more yards than Patrick Mahomes did when they played the Ravens. So let's not conflate things. Let's not get it twisted. Lamar Jackson is a pocket quarterback. He doesn't have to run. And this is the last time we're going to have this discussion because football is about to begin. We are less than a week away from the season starting, where the Baltimore Ravens travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Now, I don't need you guys to keep saying this is a revenge game. This is not a revenge game. I don't care if we beat the Chiefs 55-0. There is no revenge from you not going to the Super Bowl to you winning a regular season game. No revenge. Like, I would not feel any sense of pride after I beat them at this point. But this is the 6th meeting between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, with Patrick Mahomes holding a 4-1 edge. And I do know that just ego-wise and just confidence building wise, the Baltimore Ravens want to beat the Chiefs. Like, they have to beat them to get over this hurdle, to get over this hump. It would be a great stepping stone as far as the Ravens to begin the season 1-0. But like I said, let's not get it twisted. It's not revenge. I beat you in the first regular season game, and then you come afterwards and show me your rings. Like, yo, what can I say? I beat you. Go celebrate with your championship. Like, it doesn't happen. But this is the opportunity for the Ravens to come out and display their identity, find out what this offensive line brings. Because to me, you're going up against a great defense. We don't know what we have with this offensive line. And I think that the first game of the season is going to show us which direction that we need to go. If Eric DeCosta needs to make some trades, he needs to make some moves. Even though this may not be the finished product, it will tell us who's ready for prime time and who is not. And even if the Ravens end up losing this game, it is not all downhill. It is just the first game of the season. The offense has not played together as a whole at all. We don't even have the starting 5 of the offensive line that played together because Linderbaum has been out. Ronnie Stanley's a starter, so they weren't playing him, and they're trying to save him for the regular season. So this offensive line has not been cohesive, and they have not been able to gel together. The first team offense has not been on the field this whole preseason. They've had practices, but they've never played in a game together. So if the Ravens go out there and don't look the way that we expect them to look, so be it. It's not the end of the world. It's starting off, but it can start a snowball effect because the Ravens have a very tough schedule entering the first 5 weeks of the season. And that could be a problem going forward as far as seeding goes, as far as winning the division, as far as the playoff matchups. So this may just be one game, but it is going to be a true test of where the Baltimore Ravens stand currently. And speaking of how the Ravens stand currently in this offensive line, Eric DeCosta has been interviewed, and he made some comments that were quite concerning to a lot of people, especially myself. Take a listen.
Well, I mean, I think there's a little bit of an unknown just because we haven't played as a unit in games. We've seen them in practice. You know, Tyler getting hurt early on in camp probably wasn't ideal. Very important position. We're blessed to have one of the best guys in the league. I think across the board, we made the decision to start to build up the offensive line with young players. And that was unfortunately, with a salary cap league, you just can't build a team with veterans at every position. If you could, it'd be great. And so you have to pay players, but you also understand you've got to draft and you've got to develop young players as well. And we have started to do that on the offensive line. Excited about Roger, excited about Voorhees, Andrew, excited for the future. We may have a couple of hiccups along the way. But I think we've started to build from the bottom up, and I think a year from now we'll be in a great place. A year from now we'll be in a great place.
Now, these are some of the things that concern me and some of the things that I've been saying for a while now. What has the plan been for this offensive line? Because ever since Marshall Yonder retired, it has been downhill since then. There seems to me that there has been no collective plan to make this any better. Now, I understand you want to get younger, you want to get cheaper at certain positions, and you cannot pay everybody. Understood. But when you have the catalyst of your team and you're just throwing guys out there and said, you know what, we may have hiccups, but we're going to be good in the future. So this year, it's kind of a wash. We are in a championship window right now. We've been in a championship window ever since Lamar Jackson took over this team, especially after 2019, when we realized we have a franchise quarterback that's capable of dominating this league. And you say we want to experiment offensively and see where we're at and hope for the best for the future. The franchise, we should know better because we do not know when the injury bug is going to strike. We've had these issues, so we need to take advantage of everything that we can while we can. 2019, relatively healthy, blew it. 2023, relatively healthy and blew it. Let's hope we can continue this going forward. But for this general manager to say, you know what, we're expecting not to do too well and just hope that in the future, this is going to provide the building block, the foundation for what the Ravens are going to be going forward is troubling to me. Because he said before, we're trying to win now and plan for the future. But the moves that he's made offensively, to me, just don't seem like he's really trying to win right now. Now, you'll invest this money into the defense. You'll put everything you can. I saw yesterday that they're trying to bring back Lawrence Guy. Like, when is enough defense enough? Like, god damn, we continuously bring in defensive players. Continuously, and you're still bringing in more. You keep prioritizing defense, but we can't score. We don't know what we can do offensively. We don't know what these offensive linemen are going to look like. And apparently, when we thought that some guys were going to be cut after cut down day that we're going to bring in, it hasn't happened. Then you add on top of that the fact that apparently the Ravens are close to $3.5 million over the salary cap, which means we don't have money right now to sign anyone. We have to restructure contracts just to become cap compliant. So where are we going to get this money to bring in somebody that was cut or make a trade? We don't have it. So we're going to go into the season with unproven commodities at the offensive line, and the general manager is just fine with that. And to me, that is a big problem. He says, we've been looking towards this for a while now. So you're telling me you saw this coming. You knew that this was going to happen and said, you know what? I'm okay with science experiments protecting Lamar Jackson, even though we gave him a boatload of money. Now, I think Jose said this, being that the Ravens signed Lamar to that huge contract, now they have to protect their investment. Wasn't true at all. They gave Lamar Jackson all that money and said, you know what? Do it yourself. And even Lamar went on to the Ravens lounge and said, hey, I don't want to have to do it all on my own. Like, I need help sometimes. Like, you want me to uplift you, I need you to uplift me sometimes. I need help. This isn't a one-man team. And everybody seems to know this except for the Ravens front office. So for right now, we will see where this goes. We have less than a week before football begins. Less than a week to see what this iteration of the Baltimore Ravens is going to look like. Less than a week to begin that championship journey, which we all believe that the Ravens are going to be on. I'm ready for the saga to begin. Are you?
Nah, man, I'm cool.